I met Leah during our final year of college. I was majoring in computer engineering, and she was studying business administration with a focus in marketing. We met at a mutual friend's Halloween party. She came dressed as Rosie the Riveter, and I wore a cheap rubber Batman mask that I ditched 20 minutes in because it was impossible to breathe through. We ended up sitting on the balcony, away from the noise, talking for nearly 3 hours. It wasn't anything dramatic, no sparks flying, no music swelling, but it was real. Comfortable. Natural. After that, we started running into each other more often. Study groups, campus events, late-night library runs. I asked her out officially the week before graduation. We both had job offers in the same city, me at a tech startup, her at a retail brand's corporate office, so we moved into a modest one-bedroom apartment downtown and built from there. We didn't rush into marriage. We lived together for a few years, worked hard, learned how to share space and time and money. We fought about normal things, laundry, grocery budgets, whose turn it was to cook, but nothing that ever felt like it shook the foundation. We were steady. Practical. Focused on building a life that would last. We got married on a late September afternoon, just as the leaves started to turn. It was a small ceremony at a local vineyard, family and a few close friends. She wore a simple white dress with lace along the sleeves. I wore a navy suit that she had picked out for me. The whole thing felt like us, intentional, not overdone, thoughtful without being stiff. A couple of years later, our daughter Emma was born. 2 years after that, our son Jonah came into the picture. The house felt different with kids in it. Noisier, messier, brighter. Leah took to motherhood in a way that surprised even her, I think. She was never the overly sentimental type, but she loved routines, morning bottles, afternoon naps, bedtime stories, and the kids thrived on that structure. I shifted into a management role at work, which meant less coding and more meetings, but also a better schedule. Leah's career also grew. She moved into brand development and began managing a small team. We tag-teamed everything. If I had a late call, she'd handle dinner. If she had a client pitch, I'd do preschool drop-off and pick-up. We bought our first house right before Jonah turned 2. A 3-bedroom with a big kitchen and a fenced yard. Leah decorated each of the kids' rooms herself, Emma's in lavender and teal, Jonah's in soft green with space decals on the walls. On weekends, we built routines, pancake breakfasts, park outings, grocery runs with both kids crammed into the shopping cart. It was a good life. Busy, sometimes exhausting, but full. We hosted birthday parties, celebrated anniversaries with homemade dinners, planned vacations around school breaks. Every decision felt like another brick laid down in the foundation of the life we were building together. We weren't flashy, but we were consistent. Solid. By the time Emma turned 6 and Jonah was in preschool, we had a system. A rhythm. Life was busy, but we had figured out how to keep it moving. Leah's job had become more demanding, her team had grown, and she was being pulled into bigger projects with more visibility. She liked the challenge, though. She thrived under pressure. I used to joke that she was at her best when she had too much to do and just enough time to do it. We still split responsibilities at home, but we had naturally gravitated toward our strengths. I handled most of the cooking during the week. Leah was better with logistics, planning, schedules, forms, and permission slips. I did the bedtime routines, brushing teeth, reading books, making sure no monsters were hiding under the bed. She packed the kids' lunches, always slipping in a note or a smiley face on the napkin. We both made time for the little things. She never missed Emma's dance recitals or Jonah's swim lessons. I was always there for parent-teacher conferences, holiday pageants, and Saturday morning soccer practices. We took turns volunteering for school events, showing up with trays of cookies and juice boxes like clockwork. We were present. Accountable. Together. When we weren't working or running around with the kids, we tried to hold on to some kind of adult life. We had a standing Friday night routine. Once the kids were asleep, we'd open a bottle of wine and put on a movie or a show. Sometimes we'd talk through half of it. Sometimes we didn't say much at all, just sat side by side on the couch in that comfortable quiet that comes with familiarity. Leah liked things neat. She kept the counters clean, the closets organized, the kids' drawers sorted by size and season. She ordered new bins every few months just to reorganize things that were already organized. I teased her about it, but I didn't mind. It made the house feel like hers in the best way, like a space she had carved into something soft and lived in. Every once in a while, we'd manage a real date night. Her sister would come over and watch the kids, and we'd get a few hours to ourselves. Dinner at that Italian place near the water. A walk around the lake. A hotel stay once in a while, if we were lucky. Those nights reminded me of when we first started dating, before the kids, before the mortgage, before the calendar was packed with birthday parties and dentist appointments. Vacations became family affairs, beach trips, cabin rentals, visits to grandparents. The kind where everything takes twice as long and costs twice as much, but still feels worth it when you see your daughter's face light up at the sight of the ocean. Leah always packed meticulously. Checklists for each kid, snacks for the road, backup outfits for every possible weather pattern. She handled chaos with efficiency. We weren't the kind of couple who needed big declarations. We showed up. We did the work. We were steady in the ways that mattered. And for the most part, we moved through life in step, with our kids, our jobs, and each other. As the kids got older, life shifted again, but in the way it always does. Emma started 3rd grade, Jonah moved up to kindergarten, and our mornings became faster, tighter, more layered. 2 different drop-off times, 2 different after-school schedules. Somehow, we kept it all moving. Leah was always good at keeping track of it all. Her phone calendar was color-coded. Mine synced to hers, but I mostly just followed the alerts. She reminded me to bring cupcakes for Jonah's class birthday party, booked the dentist appointment 6 months in advance, and kept a list of everyone's shoe sizes updated in a notes app. I'd joke that she ran our house like a Fortune 500 company, and she'd roll her eyes, but I knew she took pride in it. Work was steady on my end. I'd moved into a senior role with more flexibility, which meant I could work from home 2 days a week. It made the logistics easier, being around for drop-offs, fixing lunches when the kids forgot them, handling the plumber or the cable guy. Leah's job had grown too. She was now overseeing brand partnerships, which meant more travel, but also more recognition. Her name started showing up in press releases and industry blogs. She never bragged, but I could tell it mattered to her. We balanced each other well. On her travel days, I took over completely, mornings, dinners, homework, bedtime. The kids didn't love when she was gone, but we made it work. When she came back, they clung to her legs and piled into her lap, and she'd pretend to fall over from the weight of them, laughing as they shouted over each other about what she'd missed. Even with our busy schedules, we found time for the 4 of us. Family dinners were non-negotiable. No phones at the table. We'd go around and share the best part of our day. Sometimes Jonah would say, "dessert," before we'd even eaten, and we'd all laugh, even though he said it every single night. Weekends were slower, more open. Emma liked to bake with Leah, messy flour hands and cracked eggshells on the counter. Jonah wanted to ride bikes or build cardboard cities in the garage. I usually helped clean up the aftermath. Leah and I would collapse on the couch after the kids went to bed, trading foot rubs and yawning through half a movie. We had a few friends we saw regularly, other couples with kids, some of whom we'd known since college. We rotated dinner parties, planned the occasional game night. Leah always made something nice for those evenings, charcuterie boards or pasta dishes she'd bookmarked online. She liked creating moments, even small ones. She said it helped her feel grounded. Holidays were always a big deal. Matching pajamas on Christmas Eve. Handwritten Valentine cards for the kids. Easter egg hunts in the backyard. Leah was good at making magic out of small things, frosted cupcakes, little decorations on the windows, playlists she made for every season. Our home felt lived in, warm, and full of intention. Looking at our life from the outside, I think most people would have said we had it figured out. A good marriage. Healthy kids. 2 careers. A house that looked like people really lived in it. And for me, that wasn't just enough, it was everything. The Miami trip had been Leah's idea. We hadn't traveled anywhere without the kids in nearly 4 years, and with our 10th anniversary coming up that summer, she said we needed it, just a few days of sun, sleep, and actual silence. At first, I wasn't sure we could swing it. Work was busy, and the kids had swim lessons and summer reading lists already piling up. But Leah had it all figured out before I could object. Her parents would take the kids for the week, they loved being with their grandparents, and we trusted them completely. Leah made a packing list for the kids, color-coded by day, down to snacks and sunscreen. When the day came, we dropped Emma and Jonah off with backpacks nearly bursting, exchanged hugs and kisses, and promised we'd FaceTime before bed. The flight to Miami was smooth. Leah sat by the window, sipping ginger ale, flipping through a magazine she bought at the airport. I didn't bring much, just a book and a pair of earbuds, but I found myself mostly looking out the window, watching the clouds fold over each other as we coasted toward the coast. We arrived late afternoon, the Florida heat thick and humid the moment we stepped off the plane. We stayed in a boutique hotel not far from South Beach. Leah had picked it, of course. It was the kind of place with citrus water in the lobby, woven beach bags hanging on the wall for guests to borrow, and a rooftop pool that looked out over the city. Our room was bright and clean, with tall windows and white curtains that floated when the air conditioner kicked on. Leah unpacked methodically, placing her dresses on hangers, her toiletries in a neat line along the bathroom counter. I threw my bag into the closet and kicked off my shoes. It didn't take long for both of us to switch gears, to let the stillness settle into our bones. The first night, we walked the beach barefoot. The sky was pale pink, the water warm. We didn't talk much, just held hands and let the ocean hum around us. Later, we had dinner at a seafood place Leah had read about, stone crab, grilled snapper, cocktails with little herbs floating in them. She wore a green dress I hadn't seen before. I told her she looked amazing, and she smiled, brushing my hand under the table. The next few days passed in that loose, lazy way vacation time moves. We lounged by the pool in the mornings, strolled through shops in the afternoon. Leah liked to stop at little cafes and order iced lattes, always trying something with oat milk or lavender. I liked just sitting there with her, watching the people drift by, watching her relax into herself. She had a conference the last few days of our trip. It was a professional summit for brand development, hosted at a nearby hotel. She was excited about it, some speakers she'd followed for years were going to be there. I encouraged her to go. The plan was simple, we'd enjoy the first half of the trip together, and while she was at her sessions, I'd explore the city on my own, maybe take a day trip up the coast. It was one of the best trips we'd taken in years. The kind of break every couple dreams about. Just the two of us, where it had all started, together. The shift was subtle. Not dramatic. Not something you could point at and say, that was the moment. But I noticed it, slowly, over the next day or two. Leah's conference started the morning after our beach walk. She left early, dressed in business casual, her badge already clipped to her lanyard. She kissed me quickly before heading out, told me she'd text when she had a break. I spent the morning walking along Ocean Drive, grabbed breakfast from a food truck, browsed a local bookstore. It was easy, unhurried. I figured we'd meet back up for dinner. That evening, when she returned, she looked tired. Not just from the sessions, but something deeper, like she'd run a marathon emotionally. I asked her how it went, and she gave me the usual surface-level answers, good speakers, long day, a lot of networking. Nothing out of the ordinary. She took a quick shower and then said she wasn't hungry. We had planned to go out, but she said she just needed rest and climbed into bed while the sun was still bleeding into the windows. The next morning was similar. She left early, already dressed by the time I got out of bed. I offered to walk her to the conference hotel, but she said it would be quicker to grab a ride share and that I should enjoy the pool while she was stuck inside all day. Again, it sounded reasonable. There was no tension in her voice, no distance I could touch. But when she came back that night, her energy was off. She didn't talk much, barely touched her dinner. She smiled at my stories about the Cuban sandwich place I'd found and the weird museum I stumbled into, but it didn't feel like she was there with me, not fully. I figured she was tired. Conferences could be draining. Meeting after meeting, endless name tags and handshakes, trying to make a good impression over boxed lunches and cold coffee. She'd probably just hit a wall. Still, little things stood out. She was on her phone more. Not constantly, but enough that I noticed. She was texting late into the evening, her screen turned slightly away, though not obviously so. Once, when I came out of the shower, she was in the middle of typing and quickly locked it. I didn't think much of it, maybe it was work-related, or just a conversation with a colleague about the sessions. When I suggested we spend her lunch break together the next day, she hesitated. Said she wasn't sure how long things would run, and that it would probably be easier if I just enjoyed the afternoon and we caught up in the evening. She promised we'd have time after the conference ended. We still have the weekend, she said. Let's make the most of it then. I agreed, of course. It made sense. We were both adults, both busy. Not everything needed to revolve around togetherness. Still, there was something in the way she moved now. A restlessness. A slight edge to her tone when I asked simple questions. Like she was holding something in, or maybe just trying to be somewhere else. But I didn't question her. There was no reason to. By the third day of her conference, the separation didn't feel like just logistics anymore, it felt like space. Real space. Not angry or tense, just quietly stretched between us like a pulled thread that hadn't snapped yet but was definitely under strain. I spent most of that morning wandering Wynwood alone. I took pictures of murals, sat in a coffee shop for an hour doing nothing in particular. I tried texting Leah to see if she had a break. No reply. I figured she was caught up in sessions or networking and didn't think much of it. But around noon, I saw the read receipts. No message back. That night, when she returned, she looked polished. Not tired the way she had the past couple nights. Her makeup was still on, her hair looked freshly done, and she was carrying her heels in one hand like she'd just walked through a photo shoot. I told her she looked nice, and she smiled vaguely, brushing it off with a half shrug. Long day, she said, heading straight for the bathroom. When she came out, she wasn't hungry again. Said she'd eaten with a few other attendees after the closing panel. It wasn't the first time she'd grabbed dinner without me on this trip, but this time it caught me off guard. We hadn't made set plans that night, but I'd assumed we'd at least sit together. Still, I didn't want to make a thing out of it. I asked how it went, and she gave me the same handful of generic words: productive, really interesting, good energy. She scrolled on her phone most of the evening, half watching some show on her laptop. I sat beside her, reading, glancing over now and then, unsure what exactly felt different. The air wasn't cold between us, it just wasn't warm. Like the rhythm we'd always known had started skipping in places. She fell asleep early, or at least pretended to. I lay next to her in the dark, listening to the hum of the AC and the faint laughter of people outside on the street. It didn't feel like vacation anymore. It felt like something we were trying to finish without acknowledging that something had gone off script. The next day, she left without saying much. No goodbye kiss. Just a soft, "see you tonight," as she grabbed her tote and walked out the door. I spent that day back at the beach, laying in the sun, watching the waves roll in. I thought about texting her, but something stopped me. I didn't want to get no reply again. When she came back later that evening, she said she was exhausted. She got into the shower and stayed in there for a long time. I laid out takeout containers from the place down the street. She ate a little, barely said a word. I mentioned we should go out tomorrow, now that her conference was wrapping up. She nodded, said, sure, but her voice was thin, like it barely carried the weight of agreement. I told myself it was just the toll of the week. Travel, work, back-to-back days of conversation and effort. I told myself that a few hours of sleep would bring her back. And maybe, if I hadn't been so sure of us, I would have noticed that she was already somewhere else. It was the next morning when Leah told me I needed to go home. We were sitting on the edge of the bed in our hotel room. She had already showered and dressed, her conference badge slung over her neck like always. I was still half asleep, rubbing my eyes when she sat beside me and placed a hand gently on my arm. Hey, she said, soft but rushed. Something came up. I sat up straighter. What's going on? My parents, she said. They called early this morning. They have to leave town, some kind of emergency with my uncle in Raleigh. They're flying out tonight. It took me a second to process. Wait, what? So, what about the kids? That's the thing, she said, brushing her hair behind her ear. They can't watch them. I was going to leave the conference early, but I still have 2 full days left, and I really need to be there. Can you fly home instead? Just 2 days early. I'll wrap up here and come back Friday. I blinked a few times, trying to adjust to the sudden change in plan. Of course. Yeah, I can go. She smiled, relieved. Thank you. There wasn't anything odd about it. Her voice was calm, her explanation made sense, and it wasn't like we hadn't had things shift last minute before. Family emergencies happened. I booked the earliest flight I could, and she helped me pack. She even walked me down to the lobby, kissed me on the cheek before I climbed into the rideshare. Tell Emma and Jonah I miss them, she said. I'll call tonight. The flight back felt longer than usual. I stared out the window most of the way, already shifting into parent mode. The mental to-do list came back instantly: snacks, baths, bedtime routines. I figured Leah was probably annoyed she couldn't come home first, but she'd make up for it over the weekend. I imagined us getting back into our rhythm the second we were all under the same roof again. When I landed, I texted her, landed safe. Heading to your parents now. No reply. I assumed she was still in her sessions. But when I pulled into her parents' driveway, something didn't sit right. The house looked normal. Lights on, blinds open, cars in the driveway. I walked up and knocked on the door. Her mother answered, smiling like she wasn't expecting anyone. Oh. You're back early. I blinked. Yeah. I'm here to pick up the kids. She tilted her head. Pick them up. Why? I thought you two were in Miami till Friday. I stood there, confused. Leah told me you had to leave town. She said there was an emergency with your brother. Her mother's face went still. No, sweetie. We haven't heard a thing. We're not going anywhere. A long pause settled between us. And then everything in me went quiet. I didn't say much to her parents. They were confused, concerned, but I told them I'd figure it out. They brought the kids into the living room, and I hugged them both tighter than usual. Emma showed me a drawing she made that morning. Jonah asked if we were still going to make pancakes tomorrow. I smiled, told them of course we were, and helped them pack their things. The whole time, something was buzzing in my chest, not quite anger yet, just the uncomfortable sense of something unraveling. When I got home, I settled the kids, made sure they had dinner, got them tucked into bed early. Then I went out to the porch, phone in hand. I stared at the screen for a long time, then called Leah. She picked up on the third ring. Hey, she said, her voice light, like nothing was wrong. Everything okay? Did you get the kids? Yeah, I said slowly. I did. Your parents said they're not going anywhere. Silence. They said there was no emergency, I added. They had no idea I was even coming home. Another pause. And then she laughed, sharp, bitter, hollow. Wow, she said. You really are as dumb as I thought. My mouth went dry. What? There was no conference, she said, each word like a slap. There was no work emergency. I haven't been going to meetings all week. I've been with someone else. I felt the bottom drop out of me. I wanted you out of here, she continued, so I could enjoy the rest of my week without you breathing down my neck. Honestly, I didn't think you'd fall for it. But you did. Like always. Why are you doing this? I asked, the words barely audible. Because I'm tired of pretending, she said. I'm tired of acting like you're enough. You're not. You're boring. Predictable. Safe. I don't love you anymore, if I ever did. I've moved on, and I don't need your approval. The line went quiet for a moment, as if she was waiting to see if I'd beg, shout, cry. But I didn't say anything. She filled the silence herself. He makes me feel alive, she said. And that's something you haven't done in years. You're just a tired little man who plays house and thinks that's love. I could hear voices in the background, music, laughter. Wherever she was, it wasn't alone. She'd already replaced me. You're a fool, she added. You and your little perfect dad routine. You should have seen this coming. Then she hung up. I sat there for a long time after that. Not angry. Not sad. Just, still. Like something inside me had snapped so cleanly I hadn't even felt the pain yet. But it was coming. I looked up at the house behind me, the toys in the yard, the soft glow of the hallway light through the window. And I knew something else, too. She had lit the match. But I would make sure she watched everything she gave up burn to ash. The next morning, I woke up early. Not because I couldn't sleep, but because something in me had shifted. The shock was gone. The sadness had settled. What was left was clarity, cold and sharp. She'd made her decision. Now I would make mine. I fed the kids, packed their bags for the day, and dropped them off with Leah's parents. When I arrived, her father was already on the porch, phone in hand, looking concerned. You told me what she said last night, he began, voice low. I didn't believe it at first. But I called her. He looked up at me, eyes red, jaw clenched. She didn't deny a thing. Her mother came to the door behind him, quiet. I could see it on her face, disappointment, confusion, heartbreak. We raised her better than this, she said. She told me she's done with all of us, her father added. Said she doesn't care what we think. That she'll live how she wants now. That this, her marriage, her children, her family, was just a trap. I didn't say much. I didn't need to. They both looked at me like they were seeing the real damage for the first time. If you want to pursue full custody, her mother said softly, we'll help you. Whatever you need. I nodded once. Thank you. That afternoon, I called a lawyer. I started gathering documents, texts, emails, screenshots of her social media, copies of our custody arrangements, school schedules, health records. I wrote down every word she'd said in that phone call the night before. Not because I needed revenge, but because I wasn't going to let her take one more thing from this family. Leah didn't contact me. Not once. Not even to check on the kids. But she hadn't gone quiet, not completely. I heard from 2 mutual friends that she'd posted a picture with him at some rooftop bar, captioned with a cocktail emoji and the words, finally living. So I shared the truth. First with her family, siblings, aunts, cousins. One by one, they heard the story. Not an exaggerated version. Not a dramatic retelling. Just the facts. She abandoned her kids, lied about a conference, and called her husband a loser while running off with someone else. Then I sent the photo. The response was swift. Her brother called her disgusting. Her aunt posted a long, passive-aggressive message on Facebook that wasn't subtle about who it was directed at. Her parents messaged me later that night, "She is no longer welcome in this home. Not after what she's done to you. Not after what she's done to those kids." I didn't feel vindicated. I felt grounded. Like the weight had shifted off my shoulders and landed where it belonged. That night, I tucked the kids into bed, read Jonah his dinosaur book, braided Emma's hair. I looked around the house, our house, and finally let myself believe that this life could still be whole, even without her in it. She had made herself a stranger to all of us. And for the first time since she left, I didn't want her to come back. 2 weeks passed before I heard from her again. The message came late, just after midnight. A long text, the kind that started out confident and slowly unraveled into panic. She said she'd made a mistake. That things with her partner hadn't gone the way she thought they would. That he wasn't who she believed he was. That he had used her and now refused to answer her calls. That she had nowhere else to go. I didn't reply. The next morning, she called. I let it ring. Then she sent another message. This time it was different. Less pride. More desperation. I miss the kids. Please let me see them. You don't have to take me back. Just, please don't shut me out. I don't even know who I am anymore. I sat with the phone in my hand, staring at the words. Not because I was tempted, but because there was a time, not that long ago, when I would have done anything to protect her from this. But that man was gone now. That man was replaced the moment she stood in front of someone else, looked at her husband, her children, her home, and threw it all away. I wasn't cold in my response. I was clear. I wrote, "You chose to leave. You chose to lie. You chose him over us. This is not a door you get to walk back through because it didn't work out." She didn't respond for 2 days. Then she tried calling again. Then texting. Then calling my parents. Then her own. By the end of the week, word had gotten out. Not just among family, but around town. Friends. Neighbors. Parents from school. It didn't take much. Just a few conversations, a few screenshots, a few hard truths. And suddenly, she wasn't just the woman who left her husband. She was the mother who disappeared from her kids' lives. The woman who faked a conference to sneak off with someone else, then begged to come back only after it all fell apart. Her name didn't carry the same weight anymore. Invitations stopped. Messages went unanswered. One of her closest friends, a woman who had once defended every one of her choices, called me privately and said, "I'm so sorry. I had no idea it went that far." Her parents held firm. She wasn't allowed back into their house. Her father sent her a single line that he later shared with me. "You will not teach your children that this is what love looks like." When I filed the paperwork for full custody, I included every message, every screenshot, every absence. She didn't contest it. She couldn't. She had no defense. The kids stopped asking about her after a while. Emma had questions at first, quiet ones, but I answered with honesty and kindness, without bitterness. Jonah seemed too young to understand, but he picked up on the change. He clung a little closer to me at bedtime. Said, "I love you," a little more. And I said it back, every time. Because they would never doubt where they belonged. Not like she did. It's been almost a year now. The silence she left behind used to feel unbearable. In those early weeks, even when the kids laughed or the television hummed in the background, I could still feel the shape of her absence, like a phantom pain from something already cut away. But it didn't last forever. Our home slowly filled again, not with her voice, but with steadiness. With early morning pancakes and messy craft projects. With Emma's music playing too loud in her room and Jonah's toy dinosaurs scattered across the hallway. With normal, everyday life. Without her. We moved Jonah into a bigger room. He picked out posters of rockets and robots. Emma helped paint the walls. Leah's things, what little she left behind, I gave away or boxed up. The photos that included her came down. Not out of anger, but out of necessity. The story changed. The characters did too. I never explained all the details to the kids. Just enough for them to understand that mommy made choices, and that daddy was here, always. Present. Accountable. That they were safe, and they were loved. The rest would come later, in pieces, when they were ready. Legally, the custody ruling came without a fight. She didn't show up to the final hearing. My lawyer called it the cleanest case he'd seen in years. Sole physical custody. Sole legal custody. No visitation granted until she made a formal petition, and even then, only after a court-approved psychological evaluation. She never filed. She sent letters, a few months back. Mostly vague apologies, half-hearted reflections. The same words recycled in different fonts, I didn't know what I wanted. I wasn't myself. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. None of it said what needed to be said. None of it asked about the kids. And the truth is, it didn't matter anymore. People stopped talking eventually. The gossip faded. Life moved on, because it always does. I didn't try to explain anything. I let time and truth do what they always do, reveal who people are when no one's looking. Leah stayed in the city, I think. Word is, the man she ran off with ghosted her a few weeks after she kicked me out of her life. Used her for money, for image, for whatever fantasy she was chasing. When it ended, she tried to claw her way back into the life she abandoned, but she found no doors open. Her parents cut her off completely. She called them once on Christmas Eve, and they didn't answer. Her mother cried about it later, but said she wouldn't betray the kids by letting her back in. She left them, she said. That's not something you come back from. And I agreed. I still wear my ring. Not as a symbol of our marriage, but as a reminder, love is a choice. And some people stop choosing. That doesn't mean I failed. It means I kept choosing when she didn't. Now, every day is about them. My daughter. My son. Their needs. Their laughter. Their growth. Their future. The three of us made it through. She gave everything up for a man who left her with nothing. We, on the other hand, are still here. Still whole. Still moving forward.